My guest today is Jack Cook, a writer, director, and is founder of the entertainment studio Illusion Islands. Now, Jack Cook began his entertainment career in the 1990s as an actor, and in the early 2000s, he moved to New York City and attended the New Actors Workshop. Now, upon graduation, he began auditioning and joined the American Federation of Television and Radio Arts. Then it was off to Hollywood in 2011, and he started from the bottom up in the entertainment industry and eventually started booking principal roles. Now, Jack has been seen on television shows and TV movies such as Cinnamon Girl, Let's Big Happy, Pretend Time, and more. But his focus is on directing, and his first film, The Private Eye, starring Matt Rife, Eric Roberts, and Clare Grant, made its theatrical debut this past February. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome writer-director Jack Cook and his debut film, The Private Eye, to the show. Welcome, Jack.
Oh, hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, hey, The Private Eye is done in that classic film noir style. Why did you choose this genre to base your first film on?
Well, as any first filmmaker, there's a lot of challenges, but one of the challenges are budget restrictions. When I was first wanting to make movies, I wrote a action flick, and I realized I needed a lot of explosions and a large budget. So what I did is I adapted and I wrote mystery romance and the feel of a noir. The feel of the noir is to create like a cinematic piece because a lot of times indie films and lower budget films, I really think it's good to feed them full of life so it's not as simple so people are distracted from the quality of the project. So doing a stylized film such as a noir, a neo-noir with the Rembrandt lighting, it distracts the audience because in the end of the day, all we're trying to do is distract the audience, and you're not watching a movie, you're following somebody's story. So I really wanted to give it a cinematic stylized to the piece.
Well, you did that, and you really kept the film noir style throughout the whole film, even down to the style of the dialogue. Did you use any films from the 1940s or 1950s as a reference?
Yeah, yes, of course. Like I really, with this film in particularly, Orson Welles rings a bell. Like going, to his first movie, Citizen Kane, and then, he had many noirs, and then even at the end of noirs, where like Chinatown, I really the neo noir. There's three things that make a noir, book wise, and one of them is like the woman is the main, not antagonist, but the woman is the cause behind all the problems in a way. The second thing, it's always circled around money. There's the detective always needs money, and then the third thing is it's you start in a place, but you go in this giant circle and you end right where you start. So those are the three foundations of a noir film, and I did try to keep those in the movie. And most people won't even realize those are the noir aspects, but they are in the movie.
It kind of reminds me of like a Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn film.
Yes, and that's where like you're saying I studied at the New Actors Workshop. One of the teachers is Mike Nichols, and he was a big comedian, and but his comedy was more situational comedy. It's not slap comedy. So there are a few dare I say goofy elements where it's the character is a little off, and the situations he's put in, how he reacts and interacts with the other characters is. I would call it a chuckle comedy almost. Maybe even dare I touch a satire ish of a film.
Well, you used a DVD store as a jumping off point. Why did you do
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Did you ask
yeah, and
why did I?
why did you use that?
I wanted to. That was a real good way to show the time. When I wrote this film, it was like near like where Netflix already picked up its Go, and people were experimenting with this uh, virtual, like download and streaming site. So I really wanted to show the time, but I really wanted to show my love for movies. You know, when you're writing, and especially writing and directing a piece, there's a lot of you in the movie. So I wanted to put a lot of me in the movie, and the more I watch it, I realize how much, how much of a struggling artist is actually shown through a struggling private eye. From the reused coffee grounds to, trying to always get that next job. So every time I watch it, and even like, you've seen the picture, Eric Roberts' speech at the end about how, when if you really want to live, you got to do what you love. And for me, that was making movies. So that's a big aspect of what you just asked.
There are clues in this film, and which I really liked. I don't want to give away too many of them because I want people to find them on their own. I did notice one of the clues in the very opening scene at the DVD store, especially when you shot it in black and white. And I love black and white. And
Yes.
to go back to go from black and white, which I also noticed that the black and white portions were I'm not going to say shot in standard def, but they appear standard def on screen. And then you
Yes.
have the high def when you go in to color. So it's that perfect back and forth,
Yes.
and almost where the black and white is the memory, but there's a clue in the
It
opening
is,
scene,
and
which I don't want to give away. So I want the
no,
audience to
I
really
don't.
be keen.
I think it's okay to like. I don't. I don't think we're giving it all away, but definitely now that you've already watched it, every time it goes into black and whites and it is kind of his memories, those are when he's exaggerating on what really happened. Like, and I really wanted to, differentiate that to where when the reveal happens, it's, oh, this is what really happened, instead of, like there's a lot of people in the Hollywood business, especially, that said they did a lot of things, but the way they say it is more beautiful than maybe what actually happened. So, like, that's where that aspect came from. And talking about dealing with the budget of a film, if I had all the money in the world, what I wanted to do with that originally is I wanted to shoot the black and white stuff. I wanted to actually shoot in like Super 35 or even 16 millimeter, but that would have cost millions and millions of dollars to transvert it into digital. So obviously, I couldn't necessarily do that.
No, I understand that. And I noticed that you have to have a keen eye with this film, which is great because it
Yes.
really causes the audience to participate in the storyline as it moves along. But Mort's apartment is a pigsty. But as the
Yes.
film moves along, he cleans up his act. So I don't want to give too much away, but this had a lot to do with what, his mental state?
Yes, it had a lot to do with his mental state, and when you're making a movie, you're telling a story in many different art forms, through the music and everything. But visually is one of the greatest forms. So how do you show this guy's life's a mess? And one thing I did, speaking of the mess, is yes, he was messy, but he was also very organized. Like if you look at his mess, everything's in piles. His clothes, they're on the floor and everything, but it's all the clothes are in a pile, the cans are in a pile, like there are cans everywhere, but everything is very, his letters are in a pile. So like in a way, he is a very organized person. He's just lazy in the beginning almost, but yeah, it's a mental state. And once you do watch the movie, you will find out that why he's in that state of
Well,
mind.
even on his bar in the kitchen or the island in the kitchen, he had a stack of cans that were perfectly aligned. There were three high, as if he was trying to build a wall or a pyramid. So yeah, he was organized, but even with all of the different piles, it's almost how people take their memories and they put them in compartments in their brain.
Exactly, and never clean them out. They just let them sit and pile up. Hey, that's very, very well said.
Yeah, and there was the acting is fantastic. You have a great cast in this film,
Thank
and
you.
one of the scenes I had to play it three times because I'm like, okay, Is there a clue here? So I'm going to kind of maybe let you explain it. But I noticed that when Mort walked into the bar, he has his suit on, and then he meets the girl in the bar, Sadie. So
Yep.
when she leaves, well, I should say they go back to his apartment, and then the situation happens, but she leaves because she had a red slip underneath that white lace top. So she
Yeah.
leaves wearing where you see her wearing red. But in the very next scene, you see Michelle coming through the door wearing red. Was that done on purpose?
Yes, that that was done on purpose, and just as you know in that scene that you just talked about, you know, Mort can't get Michelle off his mind for apparent reasons, and the slip, I there was it was very funny because Lexi Pantera, the actress that he meets at the bar, is she's a superstar, but she's a singer first off, so she wears very fashionable stuff, and the red slip I had to have to match Michelle. So like the her actually what she brought, because she's got a lot of style. That was actually hers, the white lace dress. But but I was like, and and she that's what she likes to wear out and go out. She's very fashionable. But for the movie's sake, I was like, you got to put on this nightgown, underneath, and that's exactly why right there.
So was there
There's a lot of little clues, and I don't know if you caught this, but the guys playing pool. That's actually my little Alfred Hitchcock moment, because that's actually me with long hair playing pool. And to bring up the Orson Welles, there was definitely a lot of Hitchcock in this movie. Now that we're talking about it, and like
Yeah,
Twilight Zone.
yeah, because there's mystery going on in this storyline. And
Yes,
one of the things I noticed, and I had to go back, and you did that. It was so sleight of hand that no one's gonna know, and until the movie gets towards the end. And but Matt Rife, and I noticed this early on. Matt Rife and Eric Roberts, they favor each other, and
they.
perfect
Yeah.
casting.
Thank you. No, that was Matt. So, like, I was working on a movie, and we were looking for somebody to play Matt Rife's, Eric Roberts' son. And Matt was introduced to Illusion Islands through Eliza Roberts, who also helped cast The Private Eye. But after I worked with Matt, I was really just uh, really impressed with his dedication and just passion for acting. Like he really goes all the way. So right when I saw him, because I was developing this movie for years, and movies like once they click, they click, and one of the things that has to click is the lead actor. Because that's the person who carries the whole weight of the movie. And Matt was. We asked Matt to do this movie like 4 months before we started filming, so right at the beginning of pre-production. So like he was kind of like the last piece of the puzzle for making this movie happen. And once he said he would do it, we just put all our favors in together from everybody we met in Hollywood. It was really like the people who really brought this movie to life were Matt, Elliot, who plays David, and then the producer Hope Ayiyi. And us four really just we were like, hey, we want to make a great movie, and we just were like, all right, we're doing it. Because a lot of people get in these idea powwows. It doesn't matter if you're Brad Pitt, Tarantino, or a person who just moved to Hollywood with their friends, and it just stays in the idea section, where I was lucky enough to partner with people that really wanted the same thing I did, which is to make a great movie. And it takes a team. Movies are very difficult, but there's a lot of art forms going on at once. So it's a huge collaboration. It's a huge collaboration process.
And it's the sleight of hand of the photograph, because
Yes.
You did it quick enough to where we just take the photo for granted.
Yes, and that was very directorial in the editing booth, where like, because I could have just not shown the two people on the photograph in the beginning in general, but I really wanted to decide it like that people would just barely miss it. But when the second time they watched it, like there's so many times, and the second time you watched it where it was like, dang, it was right in front of my face. But trying to distract the audience to watch the fake story that we're telling. And everybody that I've met so far has followed this, followed the fake story. And that's, even if they caught clues, I think it's good when making a mystery movie. I think it's good to reveal clues. Like, there's actually clues in the movie poster. There's like 4 Easter eggs in the movie poster that, people that have already seen the movie, when I showed them what I wanted to do with the movie poster, they were like, dude, won't it give it away? And I'm like, the only reason it's giving it away to you is because you know what's happening.
That's right.
And people will make, even now that I say it here, people will try to assume what the story is from the movie poster, but they really won't know what the story is. So I think in making a mystery movie, it's good leaving clues because you want your audience. This movie is for a smart audience, and anybody. Like all the criticism I've gotten from the movie has been like, okay, yeah, that's right, that's true, and but I think one of the complicated things that I'm dealing with is the time of that we're in right now. Everybody's in a swiping mentality. You got like 15 seconds before I need to see something new. In this movie, there's always something going on every 15 to 20 seconds, but you don't really know what's happening. And then on top of that, I gave back to the cinema these long shots. Where that's not very, in long shots you still can have something going on every 15 20 seconds, but it's all due to blocking. Like you got to have certain blocking for it. So I knew these were my challenges, but I think maybe some of the young generations will have trouble understanding it because it is such it's such uh, I don't know, complicated, but there's a lot going on that you really have to look at and keep up with, just like you're saying. Like, there's so many clues, like you got to really watch to
Well, it's
to understand.
playing a game of Clue.
Yes, yes.
And one of the scenes that got me thinking, I'm like, wait a minute. I said, now I'm starting to figure out that this story is taking a turn. So the scene where Bradley comes to visit Mort in jail.
Yes.
And that was when I started to realize that much of the younger Mort was actually flashbacks, because I paused it and I just stared at Bradley and I'm like, wait a minute. This is actually an older version of Bradley. And what was interesting in this scene is when Mort got up and left and
Hmm.
Bradley just sat there. And then the officer says, are you ready to go? And he pauses, but then when he gets up, and I'm like, this is an older version. And then
Yes.
that's when I started putting the two and two together between Mort and Edmund.
And that is very, like, when Mort starts realizing it is right when we do the kiss. Another like, I try to put psychology behind everything, like when it comes to the wardrobe, to the shots in particular. And the shot I used for the kiss was called a dolly zoom. And what that, like, Jaws uses it every time there's something very detrimental, and like, you do a dolly zoom, it's called, basically, where you pull the camera back and zoom in, and it creates like this warped feeling. But right then is when Mort himself starts to figure out what's going on, because in a way Mort is a part of the audience. He's seeing this stuff go down. He followed the same false story that the audience is following, and that's when he starts. That's another thing to go on what we're talking about is, I think it's good when you're making a mystery to unveil things, and it's okay if people I like it when people figure out the story before, because there's actually like 2 to 3 reveals, and if you get one of them, that's great. But then when the reveal happens, you'll understand the other two. So I,
Well,
uh,
well,
I
that
I I really like yeah, and then yeah, but that's really good pulled off when you really started figuring it out.
so on your camera shot where you create that warp feeling, that's really Twilight Zone stuff.
Yes, and that that's comes back to the psychology behind the movie. Really well thought out. I think that's a big thing for directors and every artistic job or craftsman. When it comes to the wardrobe or makeup or everything, like just to talk about another subject is the girl that we talked about in the bar, Sadie. Like if you're a female, you'll notice that she's not wearing eyeliner in that in the bar scene, and she, when she does a flashback, she had it, but then Mort points out that she cried her eyeliner off, and then she must have forgot her mascara at the house. So like a lot of those little psychology things, what that does is that makes the movie watchable a second time, and you notice more things, and like the story unveils. So another camera point is like, we're having a conversation, but right when your character starts saying something really important, well, we start pushing in. So that warp alone was just to create the psychology that, oh, this is when Mort starts discovering what's really happening, and then you'll realize in the scene following when he's getting arrested, he starts questioning to Michelle, not to give away too much, but he starts questioning about who he really is, et cetera, and who she
Well,
is.
one of the things I figured out was that Mort is in jail in the same cell as Edmund, but in reality, Mort was just in jail in that jail cell by himself.
Yes, yes, he was. He's talking to his best friend, which is everybody's best friend, his conscience. You know.
Well, there was something that I paused on in the jail cell, and I looked really close, and I'm like, wait a minute. Eric Roberts is reading a copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
And if anybody knows about that book, there was a series of books, and this one debuted in 1979. But the actual story of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it actually mimics a bit of the storyline in The Private Eye. Did I get that
Yes.
right?
Yes, the meaning to life, like in Hitchhiker's Guide, they were just trying to figure out the meaning to life, and it's just in a way, it's just to live. So that goes back to his speech at the end, and it follows exactly in line with that. So yeah, so even set design, and that was given by our production designer Noble Iams and our art director Cody Gidley. They like, because that's the thing, when you work with great artists, you give them ideas, but the whole point of working with somebody is they're the most talented at what they do, and so they suggest things. Not only actors, suggesting how they would do the role, but DPs and wardrobe. Oh, this is what I would do, and then there goes the collaborative effort. I am not a fan for directors being unable to flow with the artist. I think it's very important to improv, not just with acting, but to improv with shots. We can have a shot planned out, but if it might look better doing it from the other angle, I'll accept it as long as it makes sense to the psychology behind the movie
Well,
and what they're doing.
yeah, because in the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in that actual story, the main character meets his perfect woman, but then he balks at her request to go someplace, and she's then stolen away from him by another man. And that's when I was like, I see this triangle that happened in the book, and the same triangle is happening here in The Private Eye.
Yes, and I really think in a way nothing is brand new. All right, everything new is a combination of what was. So, I mean, even like a cell phone, a cell phone is just a camera, a calculator, a phone, and a calendar, everything put together in one. And with this film, there's definitely traits of many movies that I love, put together, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one that like there is a little salts and pepper of that. There's another one. I'm not sure. Have you ever seen The Bone Collector?
I've heard about it. I've never actually watched it, to tell you the truth.
Well, so The Bone Collector, I actually didn't watch that movie until after The Private Eye. It was like almost accidental how we were on the same path. But the reason why it got brought up to me is I actually showed the script right after I wrote it. One of the first producers I ever showed it to was a producer by the name of Michael Clawwitter. And this guy's a legend. He's also from Ohio, my hometown, and but he's a legend. Like his first movie when he moved to LA was Scarface, but he did Bone Collector. He was an executive producer on, and that movie's with Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie. But the whole movie, they're trying to follow this murderer, and the murderer's doing everything that was in a book called The Bone Collector. So it's very similar to ours with the movie aspect, if that makes sense to you without
Well,
giving too
yeah,
much away.
and I just love that little clue. And
Yeah,
because for a lot of people who don't know, especially here in America, about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that's really big in the UK because there was I believe a television series that was done on the 4 or 6 series books back in the 80s, I believe. So it was very, very popular. But I just thought the way that you put that in there
yeah,
was just brilliant. But I have to say, the taxi cab driver in this movie, he's a scene
man.
stealer.
Dude, that guy, he was man. I actually, it was so funny on set because like after I was finished working with him, I tell Matt, and that's one of Matt's good friends. His name is Eric Griffin. So Matt invited him to set, and and I tell Matt right after we shot, I'm like, Matt, that's probably the funniest, guy I've ever worked with. And Matt turns to me and says, "Thanks, Jack." You know, but you got to understand, like Matt is a genius. Matt is so witty and he's so quick and he delivers so well. But Eric Griffin, man, he's just no, he looks funny. He acts, he's just loud. He's not, he can do dramas, but like he is a king of comedy, and that's something I'll give to Matt. Is Matt is so diversified. Matt can do, and that's something I love about this movie. A lot of people thought they were going into a comedy, which this is more of a mystery romance than a comedy completely. But it shows Matt Rife's range.
Yeah.
Like that guy can do a drama, man. Like this guy is going to be if he really keeps on pushing at his acting skills, which I think he will. I mean, this is just the beginning for everybody that worked on this set. But I think Matt, can pull off some very great, dare I say, Robin Williams or Adam Sandler type movies where he can bounce from doing comedy slapstick, but he can also steal your heart and freaking make you feel a way,
Well,
if you
yeah,
know what I
because
mean.
Matt's a professional comedian, stand-up comedian as well, and like you said, he's very quick, he's very witty. Because I've watched some of his stand-up,
Yep.
but the taxi cab driver, what was so funny is that if you pay attention to his dialogue, his job is like extremely boring. And here is this moment like, oh my gosh, I get to have adventure today. Something really
Yeah,
cool is going to happen today. Hey, you want me to knock that guy off? It was so hilarious. I'm like, oh man, just give me 10 more minutes of this.
yeah. And that goes for the factor of you should. It works really well when actors have great chemistry. Okay, and Matt and him really fed off each other. And again, I am the type of director that likes to collaborate. So if an actor comes to me and says, "Hey, Jack," instead of saying hello, I would say, "What's up?" And as long as it's not a period piece that wouldn't have the word "what's up" into it, I'm like, yeah, whatever way is more natural. And I am really humbled and impressed with all the actors and how they delivered. And I come from a background at the New Actors Workshop with George Morrison, Mike Nichols, and Paul Sills, to where it's like, that Strasberg type of acting where I want something very natural on set, especially in an independent film, is hard to come by. And all the actors really delivered. I know we did a lot of rehearsal. The main cast, we did a lot of rehearsal. So I think it's very important for the lead cast to do that rehearsal. So then when you get superstars that come in for a day to 3 days, they're on top of their game because they're like, dang, these guys are good. They're ready. So the actors really pulled off their roles fabulously.
Well, when I watched Eric Roberts, his acting is so natural. It's
Oh,
almost
that
like
guy.
he doesn't even have to try.
No, and that's acting right there. Like, so many actors come out to Hollywood and their biggest mistake is right when they're doing auditions or their first role, they're acting. And that does not look good on screen, okay? Unless it's like a comedy where you're over exaggerating emotions. That's where it can look, a little, unnatural is okay. Believable is okay. But when you're doing a real piece, it should just feel like a conversation that you and I are having right now. And that's and a big factor is and what I tell a lot of actors, like one of the first notes I'll tell an actor is like, uh, you know when you're in real life, and this is what I actually do with actors. I actually just say, hey, I would, instead of, hey, you go and yell at him, be angry, it's more like, hey, what would you do in this situation? And the actor creates it himself, because that's a real place. That comes from a real place. Instead of you just telling the actor and getting in their head, they're actually doing their jobs and creating it. And we're just like directors, and the other artists are just creating the environment for them. But when it comes to this type of acting, it's like, hey, when a person's really angry, if they're sane, like if you're insane, you'll just be angry. But if you're a sane person and you get angry, you try not showing your anger. If you're a real person, dare I say real, but if you're a sane person and you're crying, you'll be trying to hold back your tears. So that naturalistic emotion of just human conversation is something I really try to pull off. Well, I not me, that's the actors that did it, but I try to watch those cameras, and I try to grab as much as that as I could while working.
And you did. How did you come across Clare Grant?
So that is actually another one of Matt's actors. Like I told you, there was four people who just really brought this together, and Matt was one of them. And Matt casted Claire and Eric Griffin and Lexi Pantera, the girl at the bar, and then Hope Yee. He casted Denzel Whitaker, Jay Reeves, Elijah Booth, and then Elliot is actually great friends with Eric. And they have the same manager as well, which is Eliza Roberts. So in a way, you have to be able to pull it off. You got to have some type of talent, but in a lot of ways, it's true, and it is who you know. Don't get me wrong. Like, if Spielberg's nephew can't act, he's not going to put him in a lead role of a movie. But so like that's where like the talent has to come in. But it made it very good for Claire when every scene that she's acting with Matt, it was very comfortable because she's comfortable.
Whoop, lost your video. Oh, there you go.
No, I keep freaking sorry, but
That's all
but it
right.
just helps set the yeah, the actors knew each other, and they had already comfort before the movie. And casting is a crazy process. You got to be very fluid in every process of making a movie. But casting, for example, you mentioned Eric Griffin, the taxi cab driver. He was actually originally casted to play Bradley. All right, and then he had some scheduling problems, and and that's when Denzel Whitaker, which I think it's perfect the way it happened, because Denzel Whitaker is he's an actor's actor. Like, when he walked on set, the whole set froze, and I've never experienced anything like that. It was actually the set that you're talking about when they were in the jail cell, confessional, the meeting room,
Yeah.
and it was a crazy energy where everybody got quiet on set when Denzel Whitaker walked on, and and so like, but that's what I'm saying is the fluidity of like casting is like I let you let the universe do its work. Dare I say, you let God do His work, and Denzel is perfect for the role of Bradley. And Eric Griffin, he still wanted to be a part of the project, like, and that was the last day of filming, and I'll never forget. He was blowing up Matt, saying like, "Hey man, I want to put me in, coach, put me in," and that's so he got his shine, and I think he was literally perfect for that role. And that scene and the bar and the love scene, those are like two of the peaks of the story. Like, because like there's a lot of story, and then it goes ups and downs, and then one of the peaks, it gets everybody off the edge of their seat with the love scene, and then it goes on this another crazy story, and then another peak is the cab scene. It throws everybody off balance again. So I really, those are two peaks of the movie for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give it away, but I love the bridge scene.
That was the Bone Collector producer. That was his favorite part of the script, was because and a lot of people will be like, "Why did you do that?" Like, like what? And really, the last scene of the movie, you watch the final after the credits scene, right? And that scene, I mean, he did it exactly that he needed to finish his movie in his life, and because people are confused. And a lot of people, believe it or not, in the theaters, they didn't stay for that after credit scene, and that might be one of the most revealing scenes of the whole movie. So it's very. I love that bridge scene as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really tied it. It tied the whole movie together. And but you're right, with the ending monologue by Eric Roberts in that last scene in the hospital. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just tied it. It tied it together. And
Well, I'm
how
actually.
long did it take you to film this movie?
Well, right before that question, did you see the scene, the after credit scene in the house? Like there was actually a scene after the credits in the house where the police break into the house and push play on the movie on the TV. Did you? I don't see like a lot
No,
of people.
now I have to go back and watch it because I was so pressed for time. Once I probably let the credits roll for about a few seconds, and
Yeah,
so now I'm going to have to go back and watch what
that
happens.
will blow your mind too, because it'll answer a lot of questions, all visually, no dialogue. But we shot this. It was 18 days of shooting, which is very short amount of time. Like I've done, I think I really like doing 20 minimum, and now I'll never go under that as a director. Like I need because time is everything, more than budget, money, and anything, which you have to pay people's time. But I mean, I would like to keep everything at like 25 to 35 minimum for shooting days. And I think if you're doing less than that, what you're doing is you're making it quicker, and everybody gets anxious because it's already a crazy experience anyway. Imagine a set where you can take your time and really work and create this magic. I have a saying that I like saying is, art is in the moment. The craft is waking up every day, preparing for that moment. So if you're rushing things, you don't allow these moments for you to capture, and that's all that matters is capturing a
Yeah,
moment.
we don't
And
see movies anymore that take 6 months to a year to film. There's
yeah,
so much streaming going on that these films are being knocked out between 28 and 40 days.
Yeah, it really, and that's why the private eye is needed for me, because, I never, it's hard for me to watch some movies lately. And don't get me wrong, plenty of people will say that about my movie as well. But when you're, especially a director, and an actor, nobody gives you the time of day until you've actually done something. Okay, so I was trying to raise originally for the private eye. I was trying to raise like $20 million, and cast some A-listers. But every time somebody would be like, well, what have you done? And I'm like, well, nothing. That's why I need to make this movie. So really betting on yourself and taking that giant risk uh, is the most important thing for a young filmmaker. And dude, it's hard. It's you will struggle, and you'll go through your battles. But if you really just don't half-ass it and really go all the way, it might take a little more time. You will make something beautiful and make it for yourself. I made this movie. It's my favorite movie. I hope people like it, and some people do, some people don't. But like, I love it. I've watched it a freaking million times by now.
Well, so I know that it debuted in the theaters in February. Is it coming to streaming soon?
We will have some big news for you in the next 2 weeks, but it will be, and and that's another challenge. I think even more than the movie, people are inspired by our team, and I'm not even talking about just movie people. Like I've had people, entrepreneurs. They might own a dog hair cutting business or something, or a landscaping or plumbing business, and they see that nobody gave us a big shot, and but we didn't let that deter us, and we were what we did is we compared ourselves to like Universal. Like, how does Universal release a movie? And and I know we had way less assets than they did, and and way less of a resume. So like the big theaters, it was even though they didn't give us a full on run. I'm calling these people asking for 1,000 theaters, and they're like, yeah, buddy, okay. And then, but so we had over 50 theaters, and all independently, and it's an impressive feat for people to watch that we did that without a major distribution. And we just really believed in ourselves. And the easiest way to the finish line is a straight line from point A to point B. And we treated it as it was simple, where I think a lot of people overcomplicate the whole process. But I really, after it all came out, I think what I really love that happened is we inspired people. I think we really inspired people to go and do it, no matter if it's what type of business you're doing.
Oh yeah, I mean the funding part is always the most difficult, and then that can dictate the script. It can dictate the amount of time you have to film, and also the talent. But distribution. A lot of people, a lot of independent filmmakers won't even try to go to the theater. They're going straight to streaming.
Well, and you've got all these distributors. We went to several distributors, and we didn't agree with what they wanted to do with the movie. And I'm so glad we didn't agree. And I think I think between them and some of the theaters, they might be kicking themselves in the head for not believing in our project, because our theater run, we did really well per theater. I mean, we got extended for another week, where a lot of these movies, they spend millions of dollars, like, and have 3,000 screens, but they're in there for minimum 3 weeks, like, guaranteed. And that's how you can continually to collect, and in multiple showings a day. And everything was, odds were against us, but we just really had belief in what we did, and we knew what we wanted. And I think that fact, like, me and you, we're just people, just like these people sitting in these boardrooms of these largest distribution companies, and largest agent actors at the largest agencies. They're just people too, and a lot of people are drawn into this illusion. The illusion islands. It's all an illusion, and if you really believe in something, go after it and go get it, and really tell your story. Not only just the movie, but tell your narrative as a filmmaker, because now I will tell the audience, I've already gotten offers for more movies in the last 2 weeks, just because of, once The Private Eye was released and on every headline, and in People Magazine, US Weekly, and everything, we're starting to get calls, and this is exactly what we planned for, and it's finally happening. So, like, any young filmmaker, any young business person, you just got to do it, and then once you do it, you'll be surprised who will give you a call. And even if they don't give you a call, you'll be surprised with yourself, I think, and you'll understand. It's always a learning lesson. I know what I would do differently next time, and if you don't have that type of mentality, you're not going to learn, and you're going to continue to make the same type of movies.
Yeah, and it's just, getting up and getting out there and just do it and see what happens. Filmmaking's not easy, but it's one of the best creative arts. And Jack, keep doing what you're doing, and I can't wait to hear the big news in 2 weeks for The Private Eye.
You'll be one of the first to hear. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah, definitely let me know. And ladies and gentlemen, film noir dominated the 1940s Hollywood, and many are still remembered today. But there's a new crop of modern day film noirs like The Private Eye, bringing back the classic Hollywood style. Now, I love the golden era of Hollywood when real films were made and dialogue mattered. Well, I encourage you to check out The Private Eye and see if you have a keen eye while watching Jack Cook's film. He gives the audience the chance to become their own private eye, and that's what makes this film interesting and fun to watch. We need more films that engage the audience and make them a part of the character's journey. So, pull out your detective hat and magnifying glass and see if you can find the clues in The Private Eye. Hey, Jack, thank you so much for sharing your film with us today.
Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing. Keep on spreading the film love. All right.
I will do that, Jack. And hey, for the next film, you got to come back.
That's right. I'll be here.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all the replays of our interviews with the top film directors like Jack Cook, producers, screenwriters, and actors, and more on our website at bondoncinema.com. We are also available on YouTube and a dozen audio platforms as well. So I want to thank you for watching and listening. And as for me, I'll see you at the movies.